Well, welcome to the Bearded Boys Real Estate Show. We are excited. We are excited that you guys are joining us here. Last week we talked about Sean. What did we talk about last week? We talked about
We talked about finding the deal.
That's right.
Finding the deal. Hold up. I'm excited here. Okay. So I need people to do us a favor.
Do us a favor, y'all.
I need them to smash and demolish the like button for us. We need it. Please do that for us because we need help. Anyway, all right. So go ahead.
That's right. I like it, Sean. That's good stuff, Sean. Last week we talked about finding that new deal, finding your first deal. Well, today we are excited. I'm excited about what I'm going to learn because Sean is going to show you something that is all up his alley. This is all up his alley, and it's the art of negotiating. And I don't say this lightly. Sean is probably one of the best at negotiating. And I tell you, Sean, I think a lot of people there's a misconception about negotiating. It's almost like they think of it as manipulating. But I've seen you with clients, with prospects, with homeowners, be able to negotiate in a way that serves everybody. And I think that is a true art form. And I just want to tee it up for you, man. Talk to us about negotiating, Sean.
Okay. Well, the first thing that I would say is when you go into the negotiation, you go in with an open mind. That's key because not everything that you deal with in real estate, or hardly ever, in all honesty, is it cut and dry, black and white. This is the way to go, or this isn't. And so when you go into someone's house or their livelihood, something that's valuable to them, means something to them, and you're trying to figure out a solution, you have to do that open-mindedly. You can't be in a box. You can't just, you have to. One of my mentors told me that on a deal I did, he said, I kicked the box down the road, because you can't go into it with a closed mindset. You've got to be open. So that's number one when you start out. So you found the deal. And then you're all hyped, okay? You got to get excited, okay? If you're not excited, you're doing something wrong because all of this is exciting. You go to the deal and you go meet with them. You found out a few things prior to going. You found out, okay, what's their necessity to sell? Why are they looking to sell? And description about the property, and number. Okay. And I'll tell anybody this, you always want somebody else to give you their number because there's two reasons I kind of look at that. Number one, and I've heard it being told to me, the first person that gives a number loses. But it's more of I can go to somebody's property, but why would I, if I'm going in there thinking that I want to get it for $5, but they're anticipating $200,000, realistically, is it even, should I take their valued time? Because there's not anything there, and as investors, you have to explain that to them to say, listen, we're in this to make money, of course, because that's what we have to do. I've got 4 kids at the house, and I say this, it's the truth. I've got 4 kids at the house, and they eat me out of house and home. I can't buy no steaks. We just ate burritos that would come in the freezer pack. Okay. And, so, but anyway, so you get to the house, and the first thing that I always do is I scan the house, because all of us have something in common. It could be fingernail polish paint colors. It could be a football, whatever, trophy on the wall, whatever the case may be. You will have something in common with somebody, some way, some shape, some form. Okay. And you find that. because honestly, what you want to do is you want to make a relationship. You want them to understand that you're in there to potentially help them out of their problem, but you're also in there to build relationships. And so that's how I do it. I go in and I look around the property and I see some things that I can kind of key in from, oh, you're from Ohio. I went to high school in Ohio. What part of Ohio are you from? And you always make that communication still, even after you're off the phone. And I told you before, it's 80% them, 20% you. And what you find, and this is just human nature, people love to talk about themselves. I do. And I think anybody else does, right? They love to talk about themselves. And if they have that opportunity where somebody is actually willing to listen, oh man, that's good stuff. So you ask the engaging questions, and then then in that time period of as you're building rapport and making that connection and getting the feel for the conversation, that's when you'll kind of ask a few questions about the property. As you're walking around and you're talking and you're looking at the property and you kind of squishing on the floor a little bit, and you're like, well, it's squishy right there. And they know it's squishy right there. They live there, and you go and you say, you don't have to acknowledge that. You just have to, you don't have to say anything. You just acknowledge it. 9 times out of 10, somebody's going to say, yeah, I don't know what we're going to have to do with that. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if it's subfloor or not. we'd have to dig into it to try to figure that out. Those kind of things, as you're talking and just kind of out of the side of your eye, acknowledging some things, it makes them talk to you even more. It brings out some of the things, because inherently when we go into a property, we still don't know each other enough. And so we're building that rapport. But 2, you got kind of 2 sides of the fence, right? You've got the investor that's coming in that really needs to get it at the best deal that they can to be profitable. But then you've got the homeowner that really needs to sell it for as much money as they can because they deserve it. It's their property. They deserve it. Yeah. They've invested time in living in there. So there's not always a truth that comes from that rapport building from somebody that's selling. It's, sometimes you have to kind of bring those things out for communication, to be fair, to make it a fair playing field for both of us and being realistic. But you're building that rapport and you're kind of noticing some things and you're kind of keying in on a few things. And then as you're talking, you ask them, okay, I know you told me over the phone that you're wanting to sell it because of this, but, is there, I seen that y'all had some things in these photos, where you guys were going to Japan, y'all want to go back to Japan? What are y'all wanting to do? And you try to really, truly figure out and find out what is honestly causing them and making them want to sell. There's a reason. Sometimes it may be as simple as I'm tired of this place and I just don't want to deal with it anymore. It's a rental. The tenants have just wanted me to pull my hair out, and you just never know. But you always just kind of key in, but you key in small so that they talk big, so that they talk more, so that that dialogue continues to grow. Going back to like the photo of Japan, if I say something about that and they don't really say much about it, and I say, well, is that Japan? Yeah, that's Japan. Where? I've never been to Japan. Honestly, I really want to go at some point when the coronavirus ain't crazy or whatever. I'd love to go, but
you may not want to go right now, Sean.
Yeah, that's right. But I hit it again. I'm like, tell me about that, because I'm honestly curious. That's the being real part. That's the being real, and then you just continue to negotiate. There's sometimes that people are hard. Right? Sometimes people aren't willing to really talk to you. They want you to get in, get out, give them a number.
They probably come guarded a little bit too, right? I mean, probably a little bit guarded.
Yeah, I would say 95% of the people we talk to are probably guarded a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, because in all honesty, I mean, they're going to look at you like, well, he's going to come in to hit me where it hurts.
Yeah.
You know?
But as we're talking here, we're talking about the whole point of this video is the art of negotiating. And you think about that, you're coming into somebody's home. They know you're looking to buy, and they know because you told them up front that you're an investor.
Yeah.
In their mind, that automatically rings a bell, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are guarded. And what you're talking about is how to break down the barriers a little bit. And one of the things you said is one of the things we teach in leadership, actually two things, is it's called the 101 principle, right? And what that is find the one thing we agree on and give it 100% effort. If it's Japan, right? We give that our focus and our effort, right? Because we're trying to find some degree of commonality, right?
Yeah.
And then the other one you talked about is listening. There's levels of listening. And what most people do is listen on level 1, and that's where I hear what you say, but it goes in one ear and out the other. I'm just waiting for you to put a period on the end of the sentence, you to stop talking where I can start talking. And if you're going to be a negotiator at the level that Sean is, you need to at least go to level 2, and that's where you start listening from the other person's point of view. You're hearing the words, and you're watching body language. You're listening to tone of voice, because those things that you're talking about where, you know, you're saying there's something not right there. Well, that something not right can be picked up in the tone of voice or the shiftiness of their eyes, right?
Absolutely. And that brings me to a good point. That's really good that my mentors taught me. You know, and it's extremely valuable. It is tone of voice and body language. So if somebody is hyped, you know, and I want to, well, guess what Sean's going to do? Man, I know, guys, that's what I'm talking about. This is what we're going to do, you know. But if somebody's, you know, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to lean in and say, really? Mm-hmm. I'm going to look at my hands, and I'm going to place my hands in the same place. If they put them in their lap, that's kind of what I'm going to do. Yeah. You mimic and mirror them. Because, and look, I'm just a country guy. Honestly, you've got more knowledge about the 101 things. I'm honestly just doing what comes natural, right? It may not come natural to everybody, but these key little things that people can do, or that we're telling them about, these are key things that will really drive the 95% resistance that you're dealing with down. It brings that down. It brings those walls down. It levels you. It puts you on that same playing field. Yeah.
So what you're talking about, to me, I love people. I think me and you both are in the same boat. We like people, and it does come naturally. And some people not so much, though. And so you have to be taught. And initially, it's all about building rapport. And what you talked about is the stance that people are in. You're going to get in the same stance. Well, that's called matching and mirroring. So you can build rapport with people without even saying anything. You can build rapport with people by mirroring their stance. So if they're sitting there like this, maybe you mirror them in the opposite stance. So that's good stuff. That's just easy ways to build rapport. Even just while listening to them talk. So, yeah. So I didn't mean to lose your train of thought there, but man, I had to jump in on my 101 principle.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So you're starting to bring down the walls a little bit, and you're starting to get the real, right? You're starting to get the stuff that we're really looking for, which is somebody that's truly coming to you in a real manner.
I'm sorry, I had to laugh. Ricky posted on our Facebook thing, I use the matching and mirror, and it makes me wonder if Sean and I have ever had a real conversation before. So.
Oh, man.
That's good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah.
So, also, yeah, kind of, all right, so going back a little bit, so I was talking about there's going to be some times that people are going to want to get the number and get out. They're not going to trust you. They're not going to believe what you're spilling or what you're telling them, and they're just, they just want you to give them a number and get out. In those scenarios, sometimes you can salvage that. Sometimes, honestly, there's just no way, right? And you have to accept that. But me, I don't give up without fighting.
Yeah.
There's still a reason. There's still a reason why they're so closed off. And so, if they're real closed off and really not willing to talk, there's times where you can just come out and ask them. If it's like a Hail Mary shot, right? You've tried all the tricks. You've tried all of the ways to really build that rapport. And I say tricks kind of candidly, but it's not tricks, but I mean, it is. And honestly, these things that I'm teaching people or telling people about can be weaponized. So you've got to be cognizant of that, right? You can use this and manipulate people. And if you do that, it's terrible.
And I want to jump in just real quick. And that's the whole point, that the reason me and you are doing this, right? Is there are people with the opposite intents using this in a manipulative way.
Yeah.
Our goal is to teach people to use it in a way that is productive and that serves people, right? And we say it on each one of these, that our motto, I guess you would say, is people over profit, right?
Yeah.
People love people better than profit, right? Or whatever we say, right?
Yeah.
but teaching people how to use these things, because you can serve people too.
Yes.
Right? There's some people that need to be out of their house and there is no other way. And you have a solution for them.
Yep.
But you can kill it by doing some of these things the wrong way, right? So we want to show you what to do, how to use it in a good way and not in a manipulative.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to the Hail Mary, let's say you just can't connect with somebody. You can come out and say, listen, what are you looking for? I can give you a number, but honestly, it's not going to be fair to you. And that's not what I'm here to do. So if you want me to give you a number, here's a Snickers and a Coke and $20, but that's not what we need to do.
Yeah.
Tell me what you honestly need, and I'll see what I can do to figure it out. That's your last stance Hail Mary, right? That's the last one to try to break down the guard. That's when you're honestly talking to somebody. Yeah. And so I kind of got off on myself because that's one side of it. The other side is you've built an awesome rapport and y'all like brothers before you leave. Well, guess what you have not done? You haven't talked about price. Mm-hmm. Because at that point, before that, price is irrelevant. Relationships are important. So you've built that relationship, and then you say, all right, you told me 60 grand on the phone. Going through here and seeing that the floor is mushy. You got that spot. What did you say? What happened there? Oh, okay. You see what I did? I brought that back up, but you've told me all this, being fair to you, but also being fair to myself. 60 grand doesn't sound like it's going to work, does it? And you wait. You don't say anything else, but you're asking that question. You're asking for a response, and you don't want a yes or no. They can say no, but you're looking for an open communication again. Because what's going to happen when you start talking about price? Guess what's going to happen again? That wall starts to go back up.
Yeah.
Right? We're talking about money. Where am I going to go? Where are we going to go on vacation when I get this house sold? We're talking about money. Everybody gets defensive when it comes to money.
Mm-hmm.
So you ask those questions, it's really not fair to me or you, is it? And then hear the response. And if they're like, that's fair to me, let me ask you a question. If I did bring you 60 grand in a brown paper sack full of hundreds, what are you going to do with it? Well, I'm going to pay off some of my student loans, and, we're going to find us a nice place to rent, and my wife or my girlfriend needs a new car. Really, what kind of car she want? And, she's just something, we're going to buy us a $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 car, $7,000 car, whatever. Just get her something to be able to get back and forth to work. Okay. In the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I see a problem. Number one, she don't have a car. Number two, they got some debt they need to pay off.
Mm-hmm.
And three, they're going to have to find a place to go. This is where the open mindset comes in.
Yeah.
This is where you think to yourself, okay, is there an opportunity, because he's stuck on 60 grand? Is there an opportunity for me to possibly go find a car that I could buy for cash where he would finance it at 10 grand, but maybe I could buy it for 3,500 and say, listen, if I brought you a good running Hyundai Santa Fe, whatever, as you talk through, you kind of figure it out. I bring you a good car and I help you pay off some of this debt by paying cash for this house, and might even know where there's a good place to rent. Could I get the house for 48 and give you a car? And then if you find a car for 3,500, you're in it at 51.5.
That's the importance of asking those questions too, to figure out what their real need is. I remember one of the ladies we were talking to, we were looking for her, and one of her goals was she wanted to be able to sell the house, get rid of the house so she can get one of those tiny homes, right? And remember that one? Yeah, we had a deal in place that ultimately kind of fell through. She ended up being a little wishy-washy on us, but we had a deal in place, right? And I think one of the things that makes you a great negotiator, Sean, a great negotiator, is your open-mindedness. But even asking good questions. Good questions are key, right? And then really filing that back into your mind. It's not asking questions just to be asking questions. There's an intentionality behind the questions that you ask. And it's to find what the problem is, what's the root cause, and then being open-minded. How can I help them solve that problem? How can I help them? Is it maybe I go buy a car for them, right? Is it maybe we go buy a tiny home for them, right? Obviously, you're crunching numbers to make sure it works, but it's offering up a solution. And when you do something like that too, it says to the person, you heard me. You heard what I said, right? So it speaks volumes to them. So that's good stuff, Sean. Good stuff. Yeah.
And two, so that everybody understands, sure, we going in to get a good deal, absolutely. But a lot of times a good deal is solely based on numbers. So as an investor, as a wholesaler, or whatever, you've got to have a number formula going into that to make it a realistic deal for anybody. And a lot of times you have to be able to communicate that in a way that the seller understands, but also is comfortable with it, so that when you go to bed at night, you're not the shyster. You're honestly communicating this in a way to say, listen, this is the real numbers. If you look at it from an investor side, we have to have a certain percentage to make it viable for a bank to even finance it, if we want to go to a bank and finance it, or a private money lender to finance it. So the whole part of this is to get the seller to understand where you're at, and then you find a solution to get them out of where they're at.
Yeah. Sean, I've kind of asked people what are some of their negotiating questions, and just kind of waiting to see what some of them come up with.
Okay, good.
For you though, whenever you were starting out, what were some of the questions you had whenever it came to negotiating? Say it's day one. Maybe
Yeah.
what are some questions they should be asking day one?
Um, you know, let me kick it back to you.
Whoa, come on, look at this guy.
what what questions would you ask? What should you be asking?
You know, whenever it comes to negotiating, I would want to know what's the bottom line, right? Like what I need to know whenever it comes to negotiating. And I think it comes down to the core value that we have, fundamental, people over the profit. Because when you can operate in that, you do start asking, you operate, you act, and you ask the right questions anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can easily get caught up in all the other things. But I would say, not so much a question, but knowing what your values are and knowing what your goals are, where you want to go with it, I think would be key number one. And then I think the skill number one is learning how to build rapport with people. And that's doing it through the 101 principle. It's doing it through the matching and mirroring, but then getting good at your questions, asking the right questions, asking open-ended questions. And some of the things I've found about questions is you want to ask questions that start with what and when and not why, right? When you ask why, that elicits a defensive response. So kind of like you're talking about going through the house and you're mashing on the floor, you're kind of looking up at the spot. If you call that out, it elicits a defensive response.
Sure.
You know? Or if you ask a why question, it elicits a defensive response. But if you ask a what question, you can get the ball rolling on that. So, yeah. I don't see if anybody's asking any questions here yet. Not yet. Anything else you want to add to on negotiating, Sean?
Yeah. Make sure before you go into the house, you have run your comparables. Know your numbers. Okay. So when you're sitting there, honestly, you do not want to leave without a contract if there's a deal. So you can't do that unless you know your numbers. So going into the house, you know the house is worth $100,000 after it's fixed up. And, you know, you're starting to kind of crunch your numbers in your head to say, okay, this house is going to cost me $20,000 to fix it. And this is only going to come with experience, right? So as you go through this, it's only going to come with experience. But you think it's going to cost you $20,000 to fix it up, and you got to have, you know, your margin in there as well, your 70% for an investor. So, you know, you already have your 70% of 100,000, that's 70,000. And then, you know, it's going to cost you $20,000 to fix the house up. That's $50,000. And then, you know, you want to make $5,000 to $10,000 or whatever your mindset says that you want to make, because we'll get into that a little bit further later in the course, or as we're teaching people about mindset, because I learned last year, your mindset is your profitability, as crazy as that sounds. But anyway, so let's just say you want to make $5,000, or you that's what you want looking to make, then your offer is 45. And when you go into that negotiating, you know, you have to know that. So do you know that you want to make 5, but in all honesty, you'd be okay with making 3 because it's your first deal, or 2, or $100 if it's your whatever. You know, you still go in at 5, so at 45 to make $5,000, and then you guys start the dialogue back and forth. And they're like, you know, you say, listen, all right. So if I'm going to give you a cash offer, That's all they want. They want a cash offer. If I'm going to give you a cash offer, I'm going to probably be at 45. That's probably going to be my number, because based off of what I'm running everything and trying to figure out making this thing HGTV ready. That guy on HGTV, what's his name? Gosh, I can't. But I'm just trying to I'm trying to bleed off of the number, because I just shot him at 45 and they were asking 80. I'm trying to detour the gut punch of 45. And that guy, what is his name? Gosh, I can't remember. But anyway, to make this thing HGTV ready, it's going to take 20 grand. And so, I'm going to be at 45. What do you think? And, they're either going to be, no, I've got to be at 55, You say that. Yeah. Man, I like this place. Is there any room? Can we work on this a little bit? Those are the kind of things, because, and you can even go into, let me explain to you the reason I'm at 45. And I can probably move a little bit, but it's going to be tight. So, you're at 55, I'm at 45, and my numbers based off of percentages are this. And you can even go as far as, if you got a pad and a piece of paper, start writing it down to show them and say, I might do 46. I think, what kind of car was you guys want again? Let me figure this out, because I don't, would 46 work? And if they say no, you say, okay, well, let's figure this out. We're on a team. Okay. You and I are a team here. I want to help you get rid of this house. And I'd love to buy it. But even if I can't buy it, I want to be open and try to help you out of it somehow. So I know you said you needed a car and you got to pay off some student loans. So let's figure this out. What kind of car did you say you wanted, that you needed? And you say, okay, what if I could find a car, even if I didn't find a car, if I could bring you the cash to buy that, and figure out a solution to be able to help pay off some of this debt, could you help me out on the price a little bit? Could you come to 47.5? Whatever. Those are, that's how you get down to the numbers. And then you sit there and you try to work through the problem. At a certain point, you got to stop going, right? You're going to lose your full wholesale deal or whatever. And if you just can't get there, you say, okay, well, let me ask you about this, and we'll get into creative stuff later, but let me ask you about this. Are you interested in something creative? Because we might be able to do something creative. Okay. So that's a whole different thing.
Yeah, let's pick up there next week. I think that'll be a great one for next week. The creative ways.
Well, we need to get into contracts.
Yeah.
You got the deal.
Yeah.
He said 48.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Boom.
So how do we write up the contract?
Oh crap. This is some legal jargon on this piece of paper and I have no idea what it says.
Yeah. Okay. Nice. Very good. So we'll be looking forward to that next week then. Writing up the contracts.
Yeah.
Right. Sean, that was good stuff, man. I wrote down here. I just want to give everybody the key takeaways, right? I wrote down 7 key takeaways, right? Whenever it comes to negotiating. And the first one is that 101 principle, right? Find the one thing that we can agree on and give it 100% of our attention. That's finding the old picture on the wall, or maybe there's a Alabama flag on the wall, or whatever, right? You're finding the one thing that you have in common,
yeah.
and you're you're giving that attention. The other one I wrote down is the levels of listening. So you're asking questions, asking the right questions. There's a particular set of questions that you're asking, and there's intentionality behind those questions. And then you're listening, and you're filing away the answers that they give. And then the third one, or the fourth one, is calling out issues by not saying anything, right? You're stepping on the floor, and you're just, as you're sitting there talking, you're mashing down. They can see that it's soft, or you're standing there and you're looking up in the corner of the wet spot, and as they're talking, you're just nodding and you're looking, right? You're calling out the issue without saying anything. Yeah. You're being open-minded, right? So if there's a deal there, you're trying to be open-minded to what's possible. And then being good with the silence, right? So that awkward silence, being okay with that. Ask the question, close the mouth, and just sit there.
Yeah.
Right. And then the last one that I wrote down was, you got to know your numbers. None of this other stuff matters if you don't know your number in the first place. Right. Yeah. It doesn't, you're actually wasting each other's time. You're wasting their time and your time if you don't know your number. Right.
Yeah.
So
any questions? Was there any questions on the,
Yeah, let's see if we have any questions. I don't see any questions right now, but Brad, he did say, at least you don't have to eat ramen noodles like me when you're talking earlier. And
Brad, you need to lay off them ramen noodles. Your blood pressure's already high.
He also said, Sean can definitely negotiate. That's why I eat ramen noodles. You messing that man up, Sean. That man's got a family. What are you doing, man?
I know it. I'm sorry. I love Brad.
Well, Sean, man, when I say this, you are one of the best negotiators with a good intent, right? And not an intent to manipulate or to make out for yourself, right? It's for, how do I win? How do they win? How does everybody win? And you're probably one of the best I've seen at that. So, you guys, he could do a master course in this. This has been 30 minutes. So he could go a deep dive on that. And we all have our own unique gifts and talents and abilities. And this is one of the gifts that I think Sean has, along with many other ones. And anyway, I hope this has added value to you guys. Any last things, Sean, that you want to add to on that?
No, I would say, yeah, I guess so. So I would say, like I said before, this really comes natural to me. It's a gift that I've always had. I've always willed and dealed in something, right? Some people don't, though.
Yeah.
And the one thing that I would tell somebody that is just starting out, don't try to do all this. Pick one thing. Mm-hmm. Get one thing and get amazing at it.
Yeah.
Get amazing at it. And then take something else. Go to your car dealerships. My mentors challenged me to do this. Go to your car dealerships and negotiate with them car salesmen and use some of these tactics. Just train, learn, try it, do it. So take one thing and then apply it.
Yeah. You
will not succeed if you don't apply it.
Apply it and don't get discouraged the first time, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, you gotta try. Good. Well, guys, we do hope this has added value to you. Hey, give us a like. We're going to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're going to post this on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe. Give us a rate and review. Share it with a friend, family member. Give us some comments there. And we look forward to being back with you next week. And Sean, you look like you have something else to say.
Well, I was just going to say, if you're going to go to YouTube and subscribe, smash the like button because the YouTube algorithm loves it.
Smash that thing, guys. All right. Y'all have a great night and God bless. Thank y'all.
Thanks.